right, hello everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Geek Garage podcast. I'm your host, David, and joined with me, as per usual, is my co-host, Lindsay. How you doing, Lindsay?
Pretty good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's been a while since you and I did one of these things.
Yeah, it's been a minute again. You know, life, craziness.
Yeah, shit happens.
Exactly.
It seems like it happens more often than not with us, but
yes.
What are you going to do, right?
Exactly.
Life, kids, weird shit that just crops up along the way. You know, there's nothing much you can do about it. I was looking at our episode list so I could remember when you and I did one last, and it was episode 164, Wednesday, on December the 2nd. So this is officially our first episode of the new year, 2023. So
yes.
It's very exciting.
Yes.
And in true late fashion, as per our particular brand of usual, we are reviewing two movies that came out like mid-season last year, like in the middle of the year, but we didn't get to see them until they hit streaming, and we really enjoyed both of them.
Well, I like movies that make me think.
Mm-hmm.
And they both definitely did that. So
that they did. So yeah, we're here to talk about Nope. And Don't Worry, Darling. Nope, of course, was directed by Jordan Peele. Don't Worry, Darling, directed by Olivia Wilde. And we're excited to talk about these. Like I said, we enjoyed both of them, and we have some thoughts. We don't really have too many notes written down. We thought we'd just kind of wing it for the most part.
Yeah,
I have a few things jotted down, some trivia and just some random talking points that I wanted to go over, but for the most part I think this is just going to be a freewheeling conversation. So listeners, if you're up for that, then definitely stay tuned. And also, if you have not seen these movies, then you should probably go watch them. One, because they're awesome, but two, because we are definitely getting into spoiler territory as usual.
I would like to make a note here.
Sure.
I think Don't Worry, Darling had issues. I wouldn't say that I particularly enjoyed it per se.
Oh, okay.
I found it interesting. I didn't exactly hate it, but I think it just has all kinds of weird messaging in it that
okay, well,
I want to talk about.
Let's do that one first, since you already jumped into it.
Okay.
So Don't Worry, Darling came out last year, 2022. Directed by Olivia Wilde, starring Florence Pugh and Harry Styles and Olivia Wilde and Chris Pine and Nick Kroll, a couple others. But I think those are like the highlights, or the most well-known folks. And it's about the Victory Project, right? And life in the good old 50s.
Yes.
Where, women knew their place, which was in the kitchen and living room and every other room in the house during the day, while the dudes were out at work bringing home the bacon. So, or at least that's what we thought.
I will say that's why I thought it might be okay to do these two movies together. They kind of both follow the same theme, in that you kind of think you're watching one movie, and then about halfway through you kind of figure out,
sure,
you're watching a different movie.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that makes sense. That's definitely a case to be made. So I guess kind of. I don't know. Do you want to do any sort of synopsis or summary?
Okay, so basically, for about the first half of the movie, we think that we're kind of watching this couple start their lives in the 1950s. Mm-hmm. The husband is working for this mysterious victory project in which he can't talk anything about it to his wife. Mm-hmm. The wife is expected to, have her dress all ironed and be all cute when he gets home and have dinner made. But
not the egg salad.
Yes. And, that's just the expectation, of what she's supposed to do and what she contributes to this life that they're trying to make in supposed 1950. Mm-hmm. Then, she starts to question things. Some weird things start to happen.
Her neighbor jumps off the roof.
Yeah, and commits suicide. And
she sees a plane while she's riding the trolley train type deal. She's the last passenger on there, and she sees a plane flying overhead. And it seems like it's probably the first plane that she sees, since they've arrived, and it just disappears, right?
It crashes into the middle of the desert.
Yeah. Okay.
Close to where the husbands are supposedly working on this victory project.
Right.
Anyway, none of that to me really matters. What matters is we come to find out that the reason this town is so quarantined off is that it's not really a town.
It's a simulation.
That's right. It's a very kind of like a Matrix type thing, and that her husband has basically kidnapped her and put her into this simulation type deal where
they got these neat little VR headsets and they're laid up in bed and
so none of this is real. The husband has made the decision that they are becoming too, separated. Mm-hmm. And he took it upon himself to redo their lives, basically. And so he has to pay for this project, this victory project. So he has to leave in order to keep her in the simulation. He has to actually go to work to be able to afford to pay to keep this project going.
Right.
And
meaning that he actually takes the VR headset off, correct? And technically unplugs from the Matrix, or I guess plugs into the Matrix.
Yeah. So this movie is actually set in present day, 2022.
Right.
It's not the 1950s. That's just kind of what's programmed in because the husband starts listening to this podcast and he gets kind of drawn in that this is the way life is supposed to be and men need to be men and basically he's jealous of his wife's success and because she's a doctor, so not the 1950s.
Yeah, she's like a surgeon, right?
Yeah, and she's very, very good at what she does. And to me, he's very lazy, because instead of trying to continue to put himself out there and trying to, get a job and contribute to their household, he just continues to be angry and kind of resentful that she's having a lot of success in her life, and he's not.
Yeah.
So his response to that, I guess, is to kidnap her and, like I said, put her in the simulation. And, it's kind of all about what the men want. It's really not about the women. So, the women, they're all, sexed up and,
Yeah, they look real good.
No, I'm talking about like they're horny.
Okay.
And
I mean, yeah.
And so that's kind of like what the men like want out of them, and you know, they want to be able to come home and eat their roast and fuck and
right. They're well, like the ladies are like day drinking and smoking and stuff. So, yeah, it definitely tracks for being thirsty all day long. Just waiting for the dude to come home.
I guess
jump their bones.
But I will say one thing I noticed was like, I don't think they ever like had actual sex. And I think it's because like he feels guilty. Yeah. And so
you brought this up the other day while we were talking, and this is something that I didn't realize.
And
myself.
So I think like I said, I think it's because he feels guilty. And so he's like trying to pleasure her and kind of give to her.
Also as a way to distract her from what's really going on.
Yes. And also maybe because he doesn't want to like have to clean up a mess, I guess. Because, I mean, he knows that this isn't really happening. This is all virtual reality.
Right.
So I don't know what that would mean for him, but...
Yeah.
It just seemed like he was, avoiding, actual sex or something. I don't know. It seemed really weird. Considering how often that he was giving, younger listeners,
I don't think we have any younger listeners.
Yeah. Well, he was giving
cunnilingus?
Yeah, oral sex, and they didn't ever have like sex. So I just thought it was weird.
Yeah, it's just the two times that I can recall, the ones pretty much at the very beginning when he comes home and they like knock all that stuff off the table, and your first reaction was like, well, that seems like a waste.
Well, she worked really hard on that dinner, okay?
She did. That's fair. And then the second was when, like the second or third day, like we're in this world and they get invited to the big party at the boss's house, and it's a big deal because not everyone gets, they're talking, they're being chatty. They're like, oh, so-and-so wasn't invited, but we were invited. So that must be, a good sign or whatever. Yeah. And, she goes inside and she's like checking out the house. Maybe she went in to use the restroom or something. I can't remember, but he follows her in there and, they start doing the nasty in there too. And I thought that they were having sex or it led to sex, but yeah, I think you're right. It was just straight up cunnilingus. So, I mean, granted, there could be some sexual activity in there somewhere, but it definitely was not on screen. So, yeah. So yeah, I don't know. There's a lot to unpack with this movie. I feel like I don't want to put all the pressure on you, but I also feel like this is a very a feminine charged movie. And so my thoughts on it don't carry as much weight as yours do.
So I guess the twist comes at the end when she kind of figures out what's going on.
Right.
She re-enters the Matrix or the Victory
simulation.
Project or whatever you want to call it. And ends up killing her husband and killing the boss guy. And then she finds out that like some of the other women actually do know what's going on. And they have various reasons for going along with it. Like one woman has lost her children.
Yeah, I think that was Olivia Wilde's character.
Yeah, so she wants to stay in this simulation so that...
Right, because her and her husband have kids in that world, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that she can keep her children.
Mm-hmm.
And the lady at the beginning, and I don't think this was a child in real life. I think it was only a child in the simulation. But the one who committed suicide, she was saying they took my child from me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was basically because she wouldn't behave. She kept fighting the system. And they kind of deleted him from the from the simulation as kind of like punishment, basically.
Yeah.
And, but it all seemed really real to her. So she just couldn't take it.
Yeah. Yeah. It was some crazy shit. Like you said, both this and Nope have, some pretty big twists. I think the twist in this one is pretty big. What did you see it coming? Were you able to guess anything? Did you guess that it was not real and it was a simulation, or
no?
Because usually you have a much stronger knack for picking up on these things than I do.
I really didn't. I mean, I knew nothing about this movie. I hadn't even seen a preview, so I was just sitting down to watch it with you.
Right.
And so I really didn't go into it with any sort of expectation. I just was kind of following along with, like, okay, weird shit's going on. Like, our eggs aren't real. I don't get it.
Right.
So I really didn't, like, guess anything.
Yeah.
But I will say this film apparently had a lot of drama, like, on set. I don't even know what all went on.
Yeah,
but as I was trying to, like, research, like, some things for this movie, all people want to talk about is, like, this director and that director and who's
fucking who.
And all this drama. But I don't care about that. I just, as with most things, I just care about the movie and the plot, which is what I was trying to find out some things about. And what I wanted to know is, are they going to make, like, a sequel? Because to me, it kind of seems like the women could kind of take over this simulation now and kind of make it their own a little bit and have their own.
I don't know. Maybe.
It just seemed like it might be a possibility. Some of those sly looks at the end, it kind of made me think that maybe they had some plans formulating.
Right. Yeah, it's a possibility. I did love, like, at the end when she's coming out of the house. Like, that is a fucking fantastic scene. Like, where it crescendos with her, like, what was it? Some sort of, like, rock or paperweight or something that she bashes him in the head with. And, and she's kind of in shock, and she's coming out the front door, and she's covered in blood, and, their neighbor comes out, and, they've all heard screaming, and so they're coming out of their house, and, they're like, whose blood is that? Like, is that, what's his name's blood? And
Frank's?
she's like not saying anything. And, it's like, it very much, it's funny you mentioned The Matrix and similarities. It very much reminded me of really any scene where, like, the agents are attacking Neo, and it's supposed to be like a real life version of, like, a virus, like attacking, like, like a body, or, part of your body or whatever, like that. Because that's what it felt like, because she was trying to leave, and they were just, like, everyone was, like, just doing everything that they could to prevent her from getting in the car and driving off.
Yes.
And then that car chase scene, especially when they reach the desert, and it's just open, like, it was fucking epic. It was like Mad Max, but set in the 1950s with, like, Thunderbirds and shit.
Yes.
That part was great. I am curious though. So we hadn't really talked about our thoughts and feelings about either of these, especially Don't Worry, Darling. So it's definitely news to me that you didn't really care for it or whatever. Like,
I just thought it was sending the wrong kind of message, I guess. Like,
okay, so what is that?
Well, I think that husbands and wives should be partners in their marriage, hopefully in their finances and in their contributions to the household. And just the fact that the husband was so put out by the fact that he didn't feel like he was contributing enough, but yet he really wasn't putting in a whole lot of effort, it didn't seem. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I just thought, and the fact that he took it upon himself just to start like controlling her.
So,
and I didn't like that.
So you just didn't really like the events that took place in the movie. Like the movie made you feel kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Okay. So that makes sense. Like, I thought when you said you didn't like it or didn't care for it, like I thought it was like objectively like, no, like this movie was bad, but it's more of like it made you uncomfortable, or like it was very provocative. It struck a certain chord. I think that was kind of the intention, right?
Well, yeah, but I just saying like,
that dude's an asshole, like 100%. Like there's no, subjectivity to this. I think the only argument that could potentially be made is that, like, it was within his right to be frustrated that she was working long hours and whatnot, but the way he went about resolving it was not correct.
Yeah.
Basically hijacking your wife's life and just being like, nope, this is what we're doing now. And you have no say in it because you really have no idea what the fuck is going on.
Yep.
So, that was the reason why I liked it. Granted, the movies that I tend to watch are pretty fucked up anyway. So I think my meter and my bar and my, what do you call it? The sensitivity level I have to these kinds of movies is a little bit higher, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
So, but yeah, I really liked it. I'm a huge Florence Pugh fan, and
well, I only really know her from
Hawkeye.
Yeah. And I'm a big Hawkeye fan, so
right.
And as much as I hated losing Natasha, mm-hmm. I don't hate her character in the MCU. So right. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, she's a lot of fun. Her character. Oh my God, what's her name in the MCU?
I don't know. I'm blanked out.
Oh my God, why can't I remember? Anyways, you're looking it up.
Trying. They're not gonna make it easy.
Let's see if I can remember.
Oh, okay. Yeah, duh. Are you done trying to guess?
Yes.
Yelena.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Duh.
I knew it was something Russian, or more Russian than, Nat. Yeah. Natalie. Natalia.
Natasha is pretty Russian, actually.
I know that. It was, yeah. Anyways, let's see. What else can we talk about with this movie?
It wasn't very well received by most people. From what I understand, most people didn't like it at all. Mm-hmm. So I kind of doubt they make another one, but I would be very interested to see if like the women take it over. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's any more right. Like if the women take over and throw the men into the Matrix, that's not what I'm saying either. Mm-hmm. But maybe they find some kind of crazy way to make money, or, you know, kind of turn the tables a little bit with it. It would be interesting.
Yeah. Like you said, it in terms of it not being well received nowadays, that just equates to no one went to go see it at the movies. Of course, it probably takes into account the reviews that it got from Rotten Tomatoes and, you know, other rating platforms. But before we move on to Nope, a couple other things that I just really liked about this movie. The score, that might have been that, and just the cinematography itself. So the score, like, I can't remember who did it, but they did a fucking awesome job. It was like an element in its own in this movie, like almost a character in itself. Just added to the suspense and just the very ethereal, cerebral experience. Because you know, you have these crazy, like, composite flashes of, you know, like close up zooming eyes where, you know, like pupils are being dilated, you know, when she like hikes up the mountain or whatever, you know, puts her hand on the window of the place.
Yeah.
You know, she has like this flash, and she ends up back in bed and gets a visit from that fucking creepy ass doctor.
Dr. Collins.
Yeah. Fuck that guy. And everyone else. Let's talk about the dinner scene real quick. That's probably one of the best scenes in this
You mean
movie.
like when they were honoring her husband or whatever, that scene?
That was a good scene as well. I was referring to when they, I guess it's the day after, when they have the boss over.
Okay.
And a couple of their neighbors over. And, you know, everything's going okay for a minute, and, you know, they all sit down to dinner and they're chit-chatting, and she brings up, like, so what exactly is the Victory Project? And everyone's like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
And then it just descends into madness. And because, like, right before this scene, they were in the kitchen, the two of them, and he's like, so you know, and I know you know, and
she doesn't really know yet, does she?
Yeah, she's just kind of like, she knows something's off. She doesn't know what, really, but, you know, she's looking at all the signs. You know, she's knows that something's definitely wrong with the neighbor, with the black couple. You know, that definitely doesn't check out. And so he's basically like, you know what? I've been waiting for someone like you, like, spoken like a true programmer, waiting on someone in QA to test out their ticket and make sure that there's no issues with their feature update. He approaches her. He's like, you know, I've been waiting for someone like you. It makes sense because, you know, your software and hardware are not going to get any better unless someone challenges it. And so that was also a very demeaning and dehumanizing part of the story, is that he's not treating her, once again, not treating her like an actual person. He's treating her like
a product, basically.
Yeah, just another wrench in the simulation.
And he's basically challenging her to figure it out.
Yeah, for sure.
You know? And she's basically like, F you, I will figure this out. I don't know how, but I've got some clues of where to look, and I'm going to continue pressing boundaries.
Yeah.
And
she does.
Yeah.
She gets it. Yeah. It takes her a while. They have to shock her ass and bring her back, and then so she kind of like figures it out twice. Like she wants to, you know, GTFO. She thinks that she's got her husband convinced, but really, you know, he calls the 5-0 and they come and grab her.
Yeah.
And that's when he
So in the simulation, they have these crazy white coat looking people. Mm-hmm. So like when she starts struggling with wanting to leave the Victory Project, wanting to leave this town, he calls them in to like, I don't know, drug her some more or try to bring her deeper into the simulation or whatever they do. I don't know.
Yeah.
And so she thinks that she's, convinced her husband that they're on the same side. Mm-hmm. And then he turns around and betrays her again. Mm-hmm. So he gets what's coming to him, don't worry.
That he does. That and all the other dudes.
Pretty much, yeah. The main boss of it all, that was Frank, right?
Yeah.
And his wife was Alice. And Alice kind of knew. She was one of the ones that kind of knew what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she's going to, if like the women took it over, I think she's going to be the big one that kind of reconfigures this to.
Right. I highly doubt that they do a sequel. I mean, maybe later on down the road, but I doubt it would be her next project. I mean, just with all the drama that went on behind the scenes, like I highly doubt
I just doubt it in general. Like I don't think the movie was received very well, and I don't think so I don't really think it's going to happen either. I was just based on just kind of like the looks, and it was kind of a cliffhanger-ish ending.
Right.
So.
Yeah. But the setting was really cool. I did fully and greatly appreciate the fact that the neighborhood was not just like one big soundstage, and they just did CG for all the houses, and we're like, look how good the CG is nowadays. We can create houses that look real. Like it was actually part of Palm Springs, like the part of Palm Springs that is still restored or has, been, what's the word?
Existed, built in the 1950s?
Yeah, that has been kept up to look like that. Like the houses haven't been torn down, they haven't been remodeled. They look like that. And in that same neighborhood or around that area is the Kaufman house. I don't know what the fuck that is. I didn't have a chance to dig into it deeper. But apparently it's a famous house where, there was a couple of famous photo shoots. But apparently this was the first film to ever be filmed there. So that's kind of cool. And that was the head honcho's house, Chris Pine's character. So that's kind of neat. So, but anyways, I don't know. You want to switch gears and talk about some Nope?
Yep.
Cool. So yeah, Nope is the third film by Jordan Peele. Came out also last year. It's got Keke Palmer and
no Marvel characters this time.
It's not totally accurate. Daniel Kaluuya, he was in Black Panther 1.
Oh, okay.
He was the one who betrayed them and helped Killmonger gain access to Wakanda.
Ah, well.
So he's not bad, but he's not great. So, but I don't think he was in the second one. But anyways, so yeah, they're in it, and then those are really the most well-known people in it. There's a couple other actors.
I have no idea who the actors are in this movie because I don't know actors.
Sure, that's my job. That's what I bring to the table. But yeah, so I think both of us were much higher up on this one than I. Okay, so I don't want to speak for you, but I'll speak for myself. I was much higher up on this one. Like I said, I really enjoyed Don't Worry, Darling, but this is probably my favorite movie from this past year, from 2022. So, at least definitely my favorite horror movie. But yeah,
I don't know if it was a whole lot of horror, more like suspense. I mean, I guess people do get eaten, but
yeah, I mean, it's got some pretty horrific parts, but that's Jordan Peele's directing style, is that it's never, I mean, it eventually he might just do straight up horror where there's little suspense. It's just horrific elements through and through. But he did Us. That was his previous movie, and then Get Out. That was his first, and those were kind of in the same vein. They were technically horror, but they had suspense, and it's a lot of it is about the social commentary and just other elements like hidden in the film that it's like, oh, it's kind of a critique on this or a critique on that. So yeah, that's kind of why it doesn't feel like a true horror movie, I think.
Okay, so in this movie, the twist is different. So you start out with this family and they own this horse ranch. Mm-hmm. You kind of are led to believe that they are not doing so well since the dad died.
Yeah, dad dies basically at the very beginning. He gets hit by some flying debris.
Yeah. And
a nickel, I think it was, right?
Yeah, something like that. So the family's just not doing very well, and they're kind of losing control of the ranch. They're having to sell a lot of their horses, and they're having to sell them to this guy who started this
Jupe.
Yes, this
AKA Glenn from The Walking Dead.
Yeah. But he actually has his own kind of horror story involving animals. Mm-hmm. So he was like a kid on the show, and there was an ape who was kind of like his brother on the show. But apparently a balloon pops or something, scares the shit out of this basically wild animal mm-hmm. that everyone expects to be tame and everything. And it goes, ape and kills a bunch of people. Pretty much everybody except for him.
Yeah, the chimp was given a box for the episode is Gordy's birthday. The chimp is named Gordy, and Gordy opens up this big old box that his he's adopted into this family, and his adopted sister gives him this big old box of balloons. And from the looks or sound of it, he's excited at first, but then they all float up to the ceiling of the sound stage, and they all pop, and he fucking loses it.
Yeah, and so eventually he kind of starts to calm down. He goes to Jupe, and they do a little fist bump.
About to.
And then the police come in and mow this animal down mm-hmm. for being an animal. And so that's kind of the twist of this movie, though, is we think that this family has discovered a flying saucer, and we think that there's aliens, and then it turns out it's really not an alien. It's actually an animal. It's a living creature. Yeah, I mean,
depending on what you classify as an alien or a UFO, I think it's supposed to be an alien. It is an alien, but it's the understanding or the thought at first is that it's a UFO, and it's not a UFO. It takes the shape of a UFO at first, but you learn at a certain point in time. I think it's about maybe halfway or a little over halfway in that it's definitely not. It is a living, breathing organism.
Yes.
That flies around and hides in clouds.
Yes.
And does not like flags or balloons.
Yes, because it chokes on them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, but yes, you are you're correct. They go to it all kind of kicks off when they they're supposed to have that commercial and get paid for it, but couldn't because Lucky got freaked out by the silver ball that they put up. I think it has to do with some special effects thing. And it saw a reflection of itself, I think, and got spooked. So they're like, we're cutting you loose. We're going to do into a CG horse. And so he goes to sell Lucky to Jupe. And I don't have to admit this. I could just say I knew it, but since I have no shame, it took 3 views for me to realize. So when they go to sell Lucky to Jupe, or do this, pseudo pawn shop transaction, he sells him for like $11,000, and he, what's his name? OJ, you hear him start to talk to Ricky, about, working out a deal to get all his horses back that his dad sold. And he's like, yeah, and you could tell he's about to be like about that. But like his sister, Emerald, she cuts in and she's like, I remember this TV show. It keeps on interrupting him. And I didn't realize that, if he would have let him continue on, like he might have let slip that, yeah, those horses aren't alive anymore because I fed them all to the fucking alien. Like, yeah. I didn't realize that, like, I thought he was going to be like, yeah, about that, you can't have them back. Like, they're mine now.
Well, he may have been going to say that. He's kind of a slimy character. I don't think he was going to fess up to nothing that he didn't have to.
Yeah, probably not. But he is a very intriguing character. Jupe. He's
by intriguing, do you mean stupid?
I don't think he's stupid. I think.
Well, he thought he could control this thing. He thought he had it like a pet.
So Jupe is he's supposed to be this child actor star who we already know from experience from watching, these kids who, did movies in the 80s and 90s and grow up, and a few of them turn out to be pretty well adjusted. The most go off the fucking rails, and, they develop designer drug habits or just... they go off the rails, and it's because that's not a normal life to lead as a kid. And not only was that his experience, but on top of that, you add the fucking trauma of watching your co-star, who was a monkey, just attack for like 6 minutes all the other co-stars and some of the audience members, I think, and the crew members of the show. And he had to bear witness to all that. And he was like the only surviving person of the cast aside from the mom, like she survived. She was the one with the veil on her face. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so he survived all that. So I think he's got that mindset of, I've defeated the beast. Like, I've lived through some shit. And so that's probably developed some delusions of grandeur in his mind, where like he thinks that he can tame an alien.
Well, maybe, but to me, that story should have served as a tale of caution,
to a normal person.
Leave shit alone.
Yeah, but to someone who thinks that they, escape death for a reason, that's just my thought, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer here. We can only guesstimate as to the intent of the director.
So what about this one? Do you think there will be a sequel to this one?
Nah, probably not.
Because like this kind of leaves on a kind of a cliffhanger as well, because like the rest of the world really doesn't know about this creature, about what's going on, what's caused all these disappearances and murders in this town now.
But they will.
Right.
There's evidence.
But I think that would be interesting to see. Like, how does the rest of the world react to this? I'm assuming the government's going to come in and say, oh, I can kill it. And I'm assuming that that's not going to go very well. And
well, I mean, it's dead. So, I mean, there could be an alien invasion, but I think this movie just works so much better as a one-off. Like, and the way that it ended, she got her pictures from the silly like camera that points straight up to the sky from that takes pictures from the inside of the well. And then we have Antlers Holst, I think is his name, who has I fucking loved their handshake or their high five when they're like, didn't I tell you this motherfucker was going to show up with a hand crank video camera? That part cracked me up. And then we got, I think his name is Angel from
the electronics store. Yeah,
which apparently it was like kind of funny inside joke or whatever, because what was it? It's a very regional, like I think it was supposed to be like a Best Buy type place. Was it Fry's or
something like that? Yeah.
Yeah, but apparently they all closed down during the pandemic. I don't know if it was because of the pandemic, but I know that's when they closed down. There might be like one or two still left open. I don't know. But yeah, so trying to think. There's so much to unpack with this movie, and I enjoyed it a lot more. So I'm trying to think of,
the reason I thought it was interesting was just because I think it offers an important lesson that even our domesticated animals and our pets are, they still have some autonomy, and we shouldn't ever just assume that they're going to continue doing what we ask of them just because.
Yeah. And yeah, that was I think that was a big important part of the plot here.
And that you need to like learn to communicate and respect their own space and their own,
right,
like with the horses in the beginning.
Right, because Jupe was trying to control it and get it to do things on command. And OJ, growing up as a horse trainer, and a part of Hollywood, he knew better. Like, he's like, you don't train an alpha predator. You pray to God that it is willing to work with you. And that's exactly what he does. Like, he gets on Lucky, and like, I love that line where like he decides to go get Lucky, and they're like, where are you going? He's like, I'm gonna get Lucky. And has kind of a funny double meaning, but he tells his sister M, to, as soon as she's able to take that the electric bike and finish the rest of the plan. And his plan is to try and not tame this alpha predator, but to
survive it, basically.
Yeah, essentially, yes. And he just looked like a fucking badass, like on that horse. Just he looked so goddamn professional, just like, you know, backing up, like he was so reserved, like it was just another day. And that was like his character was, you know, like even with, you know, the Angel and his sister, they were in the house when the alien spewed all the blood from from Jupe and his whole family and all the people from, you know, the whatever
his audience at the
it just rained blood on their house. And you know, and they're sitting in that diner, and you know, OJ wants to talk about like its weaknesses. You know, he's like, you know, I don't think it likes it when, or it can't control you or whatever if you're not looking at it. Like that's when he first broaches the subject of like, hey, don't look at it, you know, look down, like, you know, and, you know, they're like, you know, read the room, bro. Like we just been through some traumatic shit. Like we don't want to talk about that right now. And you hear him multiple other times throughout the movie before and after this. He's like, you know, I got stuff to do. Like there's always like he's, you know, like a farm hand. Like he's like there's always shit to do around the house and around the farm.
Yeah.
So he's just that guy. Like, you know, he's like, oh, it's just another day. But yeah, I don't know. I liked his character a lot. And I loved the juxtaposition between him, you know, and he's just super serious. And then Emerald, who's, you know, she's very, I don't know. How would you describe her?
She's flighty a little bit, kind of ADHD.
She's very like outgoing. Like she's the like polar opposite almost. Like
yeah, I mean, like
OJ.
he's like so like focused and like, but she also is kind of the charisma and the the people person.
Yeah, you know? Like there's a reason why she usually does the safety speech, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, 'cause you see him trying to do it because she hasn't shown up yet at the beginning when they're trying to film or get ready for the commercial. And he's trying to go over it. And you can tell, like, I mean, even it's been, you know, several months, I think, since their dad had passed at this point. So this might have been their first gig, and this might have been one of the first times that he's ever had to do this speech because his dad has always done it. But, you know, she, and you can see like he's struggling, but then like the sister comes in and, you know, she's like, sorry, I'm late. And then she just starts firing it off. But like, what's funny, I didn't notice this. I saw this in the trivia is she forgets the extra great in the great grandfather or whatever. You know, he adds in another great and she's like, oh yeah, another great. And that's because she talks about like, she's like, no, this is my side hustle. Like all the other stuff, that's my main thing. Which makes sense because like she probably just memorized that speech from her dad, which is why she probably omitted the final great in there.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. But yeah, what did you think of Angel's character?
I felt like he was a bit of comic relief, and I mean, he was fine. It was funny.
Yeah, he was fun. I liked him,
and I mean, he was loyal. I mean, he got shit done, so that's good.
Yeah, I was kind of afraid he was going to be like that annoying asshole where like you get introduced to him, and then you're like, as time goes on, you're like, okay, I can't wait for this guy to fucking eat it. Like, just, I can't wait for this alien to swoop down and just destroy this dude's life. Because like he shows up at the farm and he's like yelling and it's super disrespectful. Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, he wants his piece of the pie. He thinks they're going to discover aliens and be rich and famous.
Yeah. Like by the time he shows up, at their farm, he knows what's up. Like, he's got an idea that they're not necessarily looking for, your average burglars or thievers or anything like that. They're looking for something else. And so when, he's telling them, like, okay, he's like adjusting the camera on top of the barn roof. He's like, nope, go up a little higher. And the next scene, they're talking about UFOs or UPAs or whatever UFOs are now called. And so, yeah, I liked him. I felt like he was kind of the everyman character.
Yeah.
Almost like he had like the typical, like, this is how a quote unquote average person would react in this situation. So, yeah, I think his character was pretty well suited in its role. So,
yeah, I mean, he did what he was supposed to do. So,
yeah. And then he did pull his weight, when it came time for the action, when Antler shows up and he's got his spiffy homemade camera that doesn't use any electronic parts. He's got his own camera stuff that he works on, and then he's in charge of switching out the film for Holst's camera. So, yep. And we never actually get confirmation, a visual confirmation, but I think we are supposed to assume that both Antlers and Angel live in this movie.
I think so. I think all like the kind of the main characters of the farm, as far as I can tell, they all survive.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
That's why I was thinking sequel, because how often does that happen in a horror movie?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One thing I saw in the trivia that was kind of interesting, I thought it was interesting, but this was the first horror movie to be filmed with IMAX cameras.
That is interesting.
Yeah. Typically, IMAX cameras, they're used for big action movies, right? Like, your Mission Impossibles and Avatar and whatnot. So it's very interesting to finally have a horror flick that's been filmed with IMAX cameras, and you can definitely tell, like, it's awesome watching it on our TV, like, because it goes full screen,
Yeah.
for the like the
oh yeah,
sequences.
I noticed that big time. Big time.
I'm the nerd in this house for shit like that. Lindsay doesn't really pick up on,
because again, like, I don't know about like the actors and like all the directors and stuff like that. Like, when I watch a movie, like, I'm there for the story.
Mm-hmm.
It has nothing to do with anything else.
Sure.
So
no, I get it.
Like,
makes sense.
Unless it was just like super blurry or something really crazy, I probably am not going to notice if it's IMAX or 4K or whatever, Blu-ray, whatever. Normal TV is just fine for me. And I'm getting freaking old, and I think pretty sure my vision's going, so a few years,
Right.
Who knows?
Yeah, for sure. So I think one of the most spectacular parts of this movie, very awe-inspiring and very it's a spectacle. That's kind of a running theme with this movie, is like, Jupe says it a lot, like, it's going to be a spectacle, like, and the word spectacle is used a lot. And I think it kind of crescendos with this movie when the alien takes, like, its final form. Like, it morphs from that traditional UFO shape to this giant, like, pseudo jellyfish kind of character, right? It's very like jellyfish-esque.
Yeah.
Like it's I mean, it basically triples in size, right? I mean, it gets bigger.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Almost like it just folds like inside out or right side in. And then it's got like this little square mouth. I guess that's like its original mouth, but now it's, from a different perspective. So now it's like this square, and like this green ribbon is like flapping like out of it.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't remember that part.
Like I said, I've seen it a couple times. I know you just watched it that once with me, but yeah, that's when, they try and, not tame it, but just, I guess their plan was to, like you said, survive it, really.
Well, I mean, to prove that it's out there. I mean, nobody's going to believe you if you go running in there and be like, there's an alien creature and it hides in a cloud and it's...
Right. They wanted their Oprah moment, like they said.
It ate everyone in the town.
Yeah. Not going to get very far with blabbering on about that with no proof.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I was cracking up when... They were all like to Antlers, the director. He was like, in true director style. They were like, "Did you get the shot? Did we get it? Did we get it?" And he got it, but he didn't really come right out and say like. I think he might have said like, "Yeah," like, but it was kind of like an apprehensive, yeah, because really. He was going to follow it up with, it's about to be golden hour. That hour, 45 minutes to an hour, right when the sun starts to set, when it's impossible to take a bad photo. And he's like, we need to film it. So it's kind of like this moment he has where he's like, he has to deliver this news where he wants to get more footage of it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's just another part that I really appreciated. But yeah, I don't know if I had a whole lot else about this movie. Did you have a favorite character in this movie?
No.
Nope.
I don't think you need a favorite character.
Okay.
The jellyfish alien, that's my favorite character.
Okay.
It'd be really hard to have this movie without him.
Yeah.
So I feel like he's the real MVP here.
I mean, that is true. And like, it's not even really like all the aliens' fault. Like, I mean, the alien was just being an alien. Granted, it was, sucking up people, and that's another thing that we didn't really talk about is the some potential symbolism behind. It's basically the exact opposite of what humans do when they ingest food. We or not just food, but like the things we take. Like, we take what we want or what we need, and then we throw out the remainder, the shit that we don't need. And we know what that is. But, we see the alien doing the same thing. It ate all the people from Jupe's, presentation or, little thing that he was putting on. Mm-hmm. And when it's, when it digested all those people and it's ready to, barf back up or shit out the rest, it's all the blood, and it is like the pocket change. And
well, I think it's just
like a wheelchair. Like
Antler it's just up. Everything that he couldn't digest, basically. Right. So,
but like they also talked about the shoe standing upright, the mom's shoe. after she got attacked. Apparently a lot of people were trying to argue that like the alien was above the sound stage and was creating this like gravity force field, and so the shoe was like sticking up straight because it was like wanting to be sucked up or something like that. But I think it was just supposed to be this, like, he talks about like, what's a bad miracle? Like, is that a thing? Like, do they got a name for that? They talk about that a couple times.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it's supposed to be. Like that shoe standing up. Like it's not a, like, it's kind of a miracle, but it doesn't really, like, on the surface, it doesn't really mean anything. Like, it's just something that happens, but it is miraculous. And in that moment, it's what Jupe decided to focus on, instead of like, just like paying attention to the total chaos that is surrounding him. He's like, okay, I'm gonna focus on this odd shoe and just pray that I make it out alive. So, but anyways, you got anything else to add?
No, I'm good.
Yeah. Well, shall we do our shit that doesn't suck and then put a pretty little bow on this and peace out until next time?
Sounds good.
Shit that doesn't suck.
So I've definitely been watching a lot of horror recently, or still. Like I took a siesta, a break from it after October, just because I watched so much of it. So I watched some holiday stuff, and then I'm kind of back into it now. I think I mentioned on the podcast a while back, but I got this horror scratch off poster where it's like the top 100 most essential horror movies of all time, and whenever you watch one of them, you scratch it off, and it's got like a spoiler type scene underneath, so it's kind of fun. So I've been trying to knock out a couple of those movies. So I watched Phantasm recently. That's a kind of considered a classic horror. I watched this movie, this Japanese horror called Audition last night, which was pretty fucked up. And then the other day was Friday the 13th, so I watched the original Friday the 13th. That was a lot of fun. It's always a good time revisiting the Jason Voorhees universe.
Okay.
I know those are definitely your favorites.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's no other franchise that drives the point home that, hey, if you have sex, you're gonna die.
Yes. Very important life lessons.
Don't have sex.
Yes.
And you won't get chopped up by a big old dude with a hockey mask and a machete. So, anyways, what's your shit that doesn't suck?
So we're going to Disney soon, and I've been watching these animal shows about Disney Animal Kingdom.
That's right. I've seen a couple episodes.
Yeah, it made me really happy. Mm-hmm. It made me excited for Animal Kingdom. So,
what do you remember the name of that show? It's a Nat Geo series on Disney Plus.
Inside Disney's Animal Kingdom, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Nothing bad happens. There's some moments in almost every episode where the caretakers and vets that work at Animal Kingdom and Epcot, they have to go in and help injured animals, but I don't think there was any episodes where an animal dies or anything, right?
There's a couple that don't go quite as planned, mm-hmm. I guess. And there's at least one that I remember they actually put an animal down.
Yeah, I know.
But I mean, it's, they definitely go to extremes to try to do the best they can for them. So
yeah,
it was just the hard decision to make. So.
Right. But you're right. It's a great series to watch, like a feel good kind of thing. Especially if you like animals.
And it's exciting to see how the keepers, how attached they get to the animals, and they are very respectful of the animals. You won't see them cuddling with any rhinoceroses or anything, but they try to take really good care of them and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, you can tell these Disney cast members, it doesn't seem like they got a whole lot else going on in their lives aside from taking care of these animals.
Yeah.
Which, if that's the way you want to live your life and they're cool with that, then more power to you. You have found your calling. You go do the thing.
Yeah.
They're very passionate about what they do.
Yes.
So, I mean, and that dude with, I will say this, the episode with the, was it an alligator or a crocodile? I think it was a croc.
I think it's an alligator. Florida. No, now crocodile. Now, I think it's crocodile. I think you're right.
Yeah. Regardless, it's a fucking dinosaur. And it did make me hate them a little less. I never really liked alligators to begin with, but ever since, whenever that was, 2015, 14, 15, when that kid at Disney, I think it was one of the high-end hotels, just got snatched by one. Him and, his mom or whatever were out walking around and just fucking got snatched. And I was like, we need to go out and fucking kill every single fucking alligator in existence. I was enraged. And I don't even think we may have had Charlie at the time. I don't know if it was, so maybe that had something to do with me being so angry. I was a brand new parent.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was, it just pissed me off. So this dude, he had the power to make me hate crocodiles and alligators a little less. So good for him.
Yeah.
So anyways, I guess we've droned on for long enough for this episode. I don't know. I think we might have another week gap in between this and our next episode because we are going to Disney.
Yes.
On the 23rd of January.
Yes.
So we will be gone that week, so we won't be able to record. So there will, I don't know. We might try and record something else so we can have one in the can and just post date it. We'll see.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, just be aware that there might be a gap. So, but yes, listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. Leave us a rating and review on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Amazon. Subscribe to our Patreon if you'd like to throw us a couple bucks each month. And I think that's it. Lindsay, you got anything else?
Nope, I'm good.
Be kind, stay geeky, and eat lots of cheesecake. Bye-bye.